Today's episode is brought to you by Wonder Wigs, home of the most natural looking pre-plucked wigs, frontals, bundles, and more. I'm talking about top quality, grade A hair, y'all. Make sure you check them out at wonderwigswithaz.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Real Women Chronicles podcast. I am your international certified life coach, Tiaudra Taylor. The sole purpose of this podcast is to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. Yes, it's time to break chains and to get unstuck. Thanks again for joining in. Let's begin. Hello. Thank you guys for joining in to yet again another Real Women Chronicles podcast. I am your host, if you don't know by now, certified life coach Tiaudra Taylor. If you are joining in for the first time, if this is your very first podcast that you've ever listened to of mine, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out to join in. I pray that this podcast will really break some chains in your life and it will really be assistance to all those who are tuned in and listening. Again, I thank you guys. So listen, let's go ahead and jump into today's podcast. And I believe I may have touched a little bit on this subject in a previous podcast, but I just wanted to dive in a little deeper so that you can ask yourself these questions. If you are in a relationship and you are unsure as to whether or not it's time to break up, I think this podcast will help you out. So first, let me issue a disclaimer, okay? I am 100% pro-love, okay? I do not advocate the destruction of good, healthy relationships. I promote healthy relationships. I love love. Matter of fact, just a side note, when I was single, I followed the Black Love pages, and I followed couple pages because I wanted to manifest that thing I didn't have. And if you are single listening to this, it's so important. Don't sit around and watch cheaters on TV. Don't sit around and watch the things that you don't want to manifest in your life. You want to surround yourself with things that you want. And I know for me as a single individual, I wanted love. So I started watching movies about love. I started following pages about love. And because of that, I truly believe that it manifested and it helped me believe in love. So back to what I was saying. That was just a little side note, just dropping some jewels for manifestation and just to help you guys to continue to believe in love. But again, I do not advocate the destruction of relationships. I love love. Okay. I promote believing in love and definitely addressing some of the barriers that we face in relationships that prohibit us from loving effectively. Okay, and that is one of the things that I am fond for doing. If you listen to any of my previous podcasts, you will know that there are some barriers that we face that stop us from loving, and it pushes love away. And I address that so often. But in this podcast, we're going to address the toxic love, the one-sided relationships, the relationships that make you question your own worth. Those type of relationships I am not an advocate for. And those type of relationships, in a sense, I am here to tear down because I know that these type of relationships need to be torn down or else they'll tear you down. Okay? So there comes a time in some relationships, not all, that you have to ask yourself the question, is it time to break up? And I'm going to just drop you, give you guys a little, hints to a relationship, hints that should tell you basically a relationship that is probably headed towards a breakup. And I would suggest that you exit on your own because the relationship is probably heading nowhere. Now, here are a few bullet points, okay, that I want you guys to consider when you are considering breaking up with someone. Number one, Are you more sad than you are happy? Any relationship where the bad outweighs the good is never a good relationship. You can try to hold on to those good moments as long as you want, but the reality is the bad and the sad outweighs the good. So therefore, that relationship may be needing to come to an end fairly soon. Number 2, does the relationship make you feel secure or does it make you feel insecure? See, a relationship that's heading towards breakup or needs to head towards breakup is a relationship that makes you feel insecure. Now, listen, let me just clarify this. Your self-confidence is never anybody else's responsibility. So let's just be clear on that, okay? But there are relationships that we can get in sometimes that force us to feel less than, that force us to question our worth. If you have a man that constantly looks at other women when you're out, or a man who constantly cheats, that's going to be a relationship that eventually is going to force you to question your worth, because at this point you're probably questioning, what is it about me that can't keep him, focused on me? So again, if that relationship makes you insecure, that relationship is time. It's time to cut ties with that relationship. Number 3, has your partner changed for the worse? A lot of times we'll hold on to who that person used to be, and we do not accept who they are today. The truth of the matter is, people put on their best behavior when they first meet you. I hate to say it, but it's true. Us women, we can even attest to that. When you first meet a guy, you don't show him all your flaws up front. You don't show him that you cuss like a sailor or smoke or whatever it is that you do. You kind of try to mask that. Most of us, now I'm not going to say all of us, but most of us try to mask it up front because we don't want a person to judge us on these flaws. Well, that's the same sometimes when you're in a relationship. Years and months will go on and you'll realize that the person is not the person who you thought they were. And they're changing for the worse. They used to be attentive. They used to be consistent. And now they're none of these things. Chances are they put on a front. And this is who they are. So I'm telling you to accept who they are today. Accept what you're getting today. And don't hold on to what they used to be. If they're changing for the worse, accept it for what it is. And ask yourself, could I deal with this person the way they are today for the next 5 years? And if the answer is no, it's time for a breakup. Number 4, is your intuition telling you something isn't right? I told you guys this in a previous podcast and I'll reiterate. Your intuition is God speaking to you. Do not ignore it. Do not ignore it. But I'll say it again. Don't trust your insecurity. Trust your intuition. Make sure you're a praying person because God will let you know when something is not right. I was in a relationship for a very long time in my past where every time we were together, it was just something that couldn't rest in me. I felt no rest in that relationship. I always felt anxious. I felt scared. I felt afraid that the Bible talks about how true love casts out fear. And it's so powerful for you to get that, because if you are in love and you feel fear and you feel anxious all the time, chances are that's not true love, because true love does put your spirit at rest. And I was blessed enough, and I have been blessed enough to experience true love with my husband. And when I say my spirit is at rest, I don't worry about him. I trust him. I love him. I know that he's always going to have my best interests at heart. And it just, when you have the experience, when you have the chance to experience both sides of the spectrum, you really will understand what I mean. Okay? If your spirit is not at rest and your intuition is constantly not at ease and it's telling you that something isn't right, chances are something is not right. Okay? Number 5, have you had time to heal from previous relationship trauma? See, this is more about you and less about the person. Sometimes we can tear down our own blessing because we're carrying on baggage from an old relationship and we're ruining our new relationship. And until we take time out to address that old baggage, we're going to ruin every relationship that comes in our past. So sometimes the breakup needs to be on you. Sometimes the breakup is about you getting yourself together and you taking time out to be with just God so that he can heal you from the inside out, so that you can love effectively. Because what you've learned and what people taught you in the past is a lie. And now you're taking that lie and that pain and that trauma and you're bringing it into your new relationship. And if that is the case, it may be time to break up. Number 6, has the relationship turned toxic? And you guys know how I feel about toxic relationships because I've lived it for too many years. And I truly, truly feel that toxic relationships are the worst type of relationships to be in. They are so consuming. You can't flourish in your purpose. You can't flourish in your life. You can't flourish with anything you're trying to do when you're dealing with a toxic relationship because it consumes you. Okay, so if the relationship has turned toxic, it's time to break up, y'all. Okay, I think we're on number 7. The more you love them, the less you love yourself. It is time for a breakup. If the more you're loving them and the more you're sacrificing them, the less you love yourself. And I hope you catch this, because if you've ever felt this before, you know exactly what I'm referring to. Some people's love require you to sacrifice the love for yourself. Sometimes in order to love certain people, they require you to compromise everything that makes you who you are. And whenever you do that, you start to love yourself less and less because you're not being authentic to yourself. And whenever you're not being authentic to yourself, that self-love starts to diminish. That is not a healthy relationship, and it's probably time to break up. Number 8, are you in love with who you hope or wish that person could be? Catch that. Catch that. A lot of times we know the potential of people, but they don't know the potential of themselves. And especially as women, we are nurturers. We are natural at trying to raise a person up. You know, we're mothers. What can I say? But what you know they could be or what their potential may not be something that they see for themselves, and it may not be something that they actually accomplish. So you have to make sure that you're in love with who they are today and you're willing to deal with who they are today. Because what you hope or wish that person may become, they may never become. Okay, so it's important to know that if you are in a relationship and you're hoping and wishing for a better person in the future, I would suggest being with someone who's ready, someone who is the person that you want today. Of course, we all have flaws, we all have issues, we all have baggage, of course. But if it's not a baggage that I can see myself dealing with 5-10 years from now, then it may be time to break up. Number 9, do you believe you deserve better? You'd be surprised how often as women we stay in relationships and we know we deserve better. I've done it so I can relate. Okay? We'll be in a relationship. We know we deserve better treatment. We know we could potentially find somebody that treats us better, but we let our heart lead the way. Listen, if you know you deserve better, you do better. You have the strength in you to do better. Tap into that. If you know that this person doesn't treat you right, if you know that this person is not, financially or mentally or physically on the level that you know you deserve, go after what you know you deserve. God will give it to you.